Very good morning to you all, my dear students. How are you all? I hope you're all doing fine at home. So last class we had a general glimpse of your syllabus, and I had stopped up to ancient history of India, and also I made a mention on medieval India. Now the third part, what the classification is all about, the modern period of India. Modern period of Indian history, we are going to deal about the advent of Europeans. So in the medieval times, there were many number of Europeans who had come to India, starting from the Portuguese, then the Dutch, the British, the French, and their stay in India and what were the impact of these people. All these things we are going to deal in the advent of Europeans. And as you see further, the first war of Indian independence, that is another important topic that you are going to study in a later part. And followed by the impact of British rule on economy and education. Well, how the Britishers had ruled over India and the political scenario what they created, and the impact how it had effect on our country's economy and education is another important factor that you are going to study in later stages. And socio-religious movement. Well, the Britishers or the so-called Europeans came to India, and the impact, what happened on a society, what was a requirement for these social scenarios, those things we will be studying under socio-religious movement. Then finally we are coming down towards the freedom movement or the so-called Indian national movement. That is a freedom movement. How the Indians had slogged to attain its independence from the clutches of Britishers. So what were all the efforts, many personalities, and obviously finally how Gandhi, Nehru and others formulated the country called as India from the hands of these Britishers. Well, coming to the conclusion of the syllabus, unification of Mysore. This one is actually meant for the second BSc students of Karnataka, because there was a need to understand how Karnataka was divided in the middle of the from the modern period, and how the efforts of many number of people had brought together the entire Karnataka as one. So those things also we'll be studying as a final chapter of the syllabus. And obviously history is incomplete without the map. So there is a map question for you people. As in last year you had world map, now this year it will be all about Indian studies of the places in the map study. So there's a 10-mark question related to the map. So you got to be preparing for that also. You need not draw the outline, you only have to practice with the places. So there might be 20 places, out of which 10 is very much important. So as we go further, I'll be there to help you out. Need not worry about the map part. There is an easier method also, how to mark the places and how we can make you to score 10 valuable marks in your exams. So these are the syllabus prescribed for you in this year, and let us get into the first topic of history, that is introduction. What is India? The meaning of India, and followed by the physical features of India. Then we go with the special features of Indian history and many more stuff. So let me begin with the first class, that is introduction of India. Well, we are all Indians, we know that, but still there are a lot of things that we are unaware of. Few things I just want to unfold here is, the subcontinent called India has got many countries as its neighbors. To mention a few, as you all know that, on the western side there is Pakistan. On the furthermore towards the west, we have got Afghanistan. Moving towards the eastern side, we have Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, or the ancient name called Burma. Then we do have Sri Lanka. All right. So these are some of the important neighbors of India. And all these things, or all these countries put together, was once upon a time called as Bharata Varsha or Akhanda Bharata. That is the old name of India. And this is actually the neighboring countries of India from the ancient times. Regarding another important factor is the meaning of India. Well, these are the different names of Bharata or India. As once upon a time it was called as Bharata Varsha, Bharata Khanda, Jambudvipa, Hindustan and India. Now these names are actually referred from Bharata. Previously I made a mention that he was a son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala, and that name is mentioned in the Mahabharata. Followed by that, Jambudvipa is actually the name derived from a fruit called as Jambu or the blackberry. The reason why it was called Jambudvipa was because the southern continent or the southern subcontinent, which is actually in the island formation, appeared like a fruit, and that's the reason why it was called as Jambudvipa. Then followed by this Hindustan. Hindustan was actually not the native name. Hindustan was actually due to the invasions of Islamic invaders who came to India in the medieval period. In the previous class I was making a mention about the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. So we could say that Delhi Sultanate, with the coming of the Delhi Sultanate, this country came to be called as Hindustan. But there is one more reason behind this. This country or the Bharata had been known as Sindhu. This country was called as a Sindhu because of the flowing of river Sindhu. But gradually what happened was, when the Persians, for the first time when the Persians invaded India, there took place a changes in the name. The Sindhu became, it is not the people that they referred, the place what they referred. Instead of the Sindhu, it became Hindu. It is a corrupted form of Sa. So in that way, this country was called as Hindu. Later on, when the Islamic rulers came, they changed it to completely Hindustan. And obviously this name India, due to the arrival of the Europeans, this country was called as India. And etymology states that the origin of this word states to Indos. This was due to the naming, or this was due to the arrival of the Greeks. When the Greeks came to India, even before Alexander, there were few Greeks who came to India. But with the coming of Alexander, along with some of his historians and many number of notable writers, this country came to be called as Indos. And the corrupted form of Indos became India during the time of Europeans. So this is the origin of the name of India. The word Indian name is actually mentioned in the epic of Vishnu Purana. What it says about India is Uttaram yat samudrasya himadrashaiva dakshinam varsham tad bharatam namah bharati yatra santati. The country that lies on the country that lies north of the ocean, the south of the snowy mountains, is called Bharata, and there dwells the descendants of Bharata. And who is this Bharata? Bharata was the son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala, and he was the first ruler of India as mentioned in Mahabharata. And from him itself, the name Bharat has been proudly called for our nation. Bharata, Bharata Varsha, Akhanda Bharata, Bharata Khanda, Jambudvipa, Hindustan or Hind. All these are the various names, and so-called India had been an etymology of all these words. But how all these words got its origin, that is what the next question is. The word Bharata was an ancient name known across the world. But who called it as India and who called it as Hindustan? There is again a curiosity building up how it had unfolded. Well, regarding the names I already mentioned, the northern subcontinent of India came to be called as Aryavarta, and the land of the south was called as Dakshinapatha. In the Jambudvipa, all the south and the north is an amalgamation. The southern part came to be called as Dakshinapatha, whereas the north had come to be called as Aryavarta. And all this happened due to the arrival of the Aryans into India. And that's the reason why it was called as Aryavarta. Now another question remains. Now who were the early Persians? And who were the Greeks who came to India? And when did they invade India? There are certain records for this. There are few evidences, epigraphical inscriptions or epigraphical evidences are there which suggest the names that the Persians had invaded India, and followed by that the Greeks came to India. Regarding the Persians, few mentions are being listed down in Avesta, the sacred book of the Persians. There is a mention that the Persians had invaded India, not with the view of developing India, but the wealth that attracted them. And after these things, Alexander also invaded India to quench his ambitious project of invading the entire world. His main intention was not to improvise the Indian conditions, whereas India had a progressive steps in those days, even ahead of the Greeks. He came to India only with a view of looting the wealth. Wealth of India attracted him, and that's the reason why he made a way towards India, passing through the northwestern side. The northwestern frontiers of India had become a gateway that many invaders entered through these paths. And finally, Alexander came to India, even before that, as I told you, Persians also invaded India. And what impact had they created? If we look at the effects of these invasions, we could definitely say that there was an exchange of culture. Indo-Parsians or Indo-Indians had an amalgamation of the cultural exchange with the Persians, and so forth. These Greeks also had an amalgamation of their culture on India. And these elements are found in architecture and also in literature. The reason why I'm mentioning all this is because we could say that when the Persians had come to India, they contributed with the literary forms. They came across with a script that was called as Kharoshthi. It's an ancient script. And using this script, one of our Indian ancient ruler by name called as Ashoka had made, or he had issued many number of inscriptions in this Kharoshthi. Well, Persians further established the trade relations with the Indians. The Greeks also settled in India for some time. Even after the departure of Alexander from India, furthermore, there was another invader from Greece who came to India, and his name was Seleucus Nicator. When he came to India here, he had to confront with a Mauryan ruler called Chandragupta Maurya. And Chandragupta Maurya had established his kingdom. So forth, what happened was Seleucus Nicator was mercilessly defeated by Chandragupta, and he had to settle back towards his homeland, contributing away a few of the elephants, some of his territories, to our Indian native ruler. So that was a glorious period of the Persians and the Greeks, the early invaders to India. Further part, there were few names that who had invaded India in the past. But I'm not going to touch upon all those things because that will become too lengthy for you people, and that might also confuse you for a while. So I'm just omitting all those names, and directly we are going towards the next important subheading, that is called as the impact and the effects of physical features of India. The first physical feature of Indian history, or coming to this point, is the mountainous regions called Himalayas. We know that Himalayas, what are the benefits and how and from where it starts? It stretches from the Terai to the crest of the Himalayas, covering up a huge areas of land, covering up the regions like Kashmir, Kangra, Tehri, Kumaon, Nepal, Sikkim and Bhutan. So these are the areas that Himalayas totally cover up. It stretches from the Terai and to the crest of Himalayas. I'm repeating that. The advantages part of Himalayas. Now, what are the advantages of Himalayas? As you might be wondering, sir, it is just a mountain. But there are a lot of beneficial things on the Indians because it has helped us from protection. It has been a natural frontier for India for many centuries. No invaders could cross over the mountainous regions, the snowy mountainous, they could not access over due to lack of substances that could keep them warm in those days. So in that way, Himalaya had played a role as a natural frontier for India. That is number one. Second reason is, or the second beneficial part is, it had been able to protect the cold wind blowing from the Tibet and northern regions. Indians are blessed that Himalaya had played a role as a barrier in stopping away the strong blow of the wind from the northern side. So in that way, Himalaya had been beneficial. Next part of the beneficiary part of the Himalayas is that it played a role of, during the summer period, it created many number of rivers. The ever-flowing river waters in the north was all due to the Himalayas. The melting of the snow that was converted into rivers that kept the North Indians the North Indians were kept with never-ending or never drying up of the rivers, which benefited for their survival. So these are some of the important factors or beneficials of Himalaya. Coming to the conclusion part, this Himalaya once again had played a very, a very negative part also. There was an opening in the Himalayas which made an entry for all the invaders. This caused an entry for the invaders to come over from the northwestern region and enter, and could also establish empires or even the civilizations for that part. We could see that Persians entered through this Himalayas, then the Greeks entered through the Himalayan regions, and then followed by the Scythians. Then came the Arabs and many more foreigners. First of all, India had been a land which had attracted many foreigners, looters, philosophers, etc., etc. kind of people. But invaders were much attracted towards India for the sake of wealth. So in that way, Himalayans had stopped over, but at some point, it had even broken the chain, giving way for these enemies in later stages. So that's it for the day. Whatever things that I have explained in the session, if you have got any queries, there is a link below and you can send whatever queries through that link. All right. So questions 1 mark, 2 mark and 5 mark questions are there from this topic. I hope that you had purchased a textbook. I guess some bookshops are open and the books are available through that book stalls. I hope that you purchase at the earliest, or at least borrow from your friends, and stay home, stay safe. This is Sujindran signing out. Corona has become a very much deadly these days. So now it's my turn to cover up myself. Take care. Stay home, stay safe. We'll meet very soon. Thank you.